Out of bondage and now I am free. Da 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 da. Divine all blessed, greetings and salutations. Come on in, welcome. It's another powerful edition and rendition of Evolutionary, Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is a blessing. Welcome, welcome one and all. Come on in, come on in. Welcome. Come back home to Africa. Come back home. Welcome, come on in. Come back home. I'm with you. I'm just tidying up some things so we don't have any drag on the computer. Yes, divine, all blessed, peace and love, joy and prosperity, revelations and manifestation. You are now sitting live with the Divine Prince, and always an archive at your leisure and convenience. Here for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. This is my constant prayer, my mantra, affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and it is indeed my ever-living reality. It is crucial to the very foundation of my understanding, my teaching, my walk, my works along this divine, all-blessed life path and journey, and it is how I, the Divine Prince, make sense out of all that we're challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth, and it is my personal place of power and understanding. That place from where I began, that place from where I realize and crystallize all my endeavors, understanding that I and I alone create and co-create my divine destiny, and I alone create and co-create my divine all-blessed reality. And so it is. Ashe, Asheo, Ashe. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, and I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you live, but also verbally, virtually, cosmically, quantum universally from this working temple of the House of the Divine Prince, Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central, in this legendary, historic, beautiful, and most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this hoodoo, voodoo, obeah life path and journey, passing down the great obeah stick along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, traditions. And so, as always, I open in peace and gratitude at the foot of our mighty ancestors for any opportunity to connect with you live, virtually in this way at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time on various social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, My EarthCam Page, StreamYard, we're available a little bit of everywhere right now. And I invite you to please use my live listening and call-in number area code 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. When you're ready with your question, comment, or request, do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. I'll be more than happy to open your mic, unmute your mic, and bring you into the conversation. I also invite you to click on the link here in the chat, or write that one down that's scrolling across your screen right now. It will indeed give you the opportunity to join us here live, on screen, on camera, and also be a part of the show in that way. I greet each and every one of you. Jay White, beloved, my sketch is overwhelming, but I'm going to get to you. I'm going to get back to you. Keisha Smith, thank you so much. Courageous Ummi, thank you for being present with us. Our beloved Keona D. Carter, our moderator and leader in our chat room. She helps me to sort of see and keep order with all the things that I have to do here. Some of you know the screen is scrolling and moving while the show is going on. I'm also having to monitor my StreamYard and my YouTube and my Blog Talk Radio. So please bear with me and show our beloved Keona all due respect as she helps me to sort of maintain some order here in the live moving chat. Greetings, Neophyte, Bokor, tourists, and all my regular listeners and callers and participants, indeed my co-hosts, my superstars of this show are those who call in, write in with their questions, comments, and requests, and actively become a part of the show. Greetings, Fitness Girl Fun 7, the gentlemen. Thank you all so much for showing up here. Divine self-healing, peace and blessings, beloved, peace and serenity and tranquility to you and yours. I'm always honored and appreciative by each and every one of you who show up and support the show. Fitness Girl, I support you in your dream. I support you in your vision. May the ancestors and the spirits, may Olodumare and Mawo Lisa indeed allow us to come together again by 7-11. Powerful numbers, 7-11. Gateway, doorway open in numbers, 7-11. Also representing the divine completion of a season. So I pray with you, I hold hands with you, I participate in practice and ritual with you in the idea that we indeed will be together July 11th. And not just you and I, but those who are here with us, in spirit, in truth, in the room, in archive, that we indeed can move forward in a world that we can operate in physically by July 11th. I was very comfortable and very conscious and very specific not to say return to or go back to normal. There's no going back to, there's no quote unquote returning to. Y'all better pay attention. Scroll my Facebook page of the day, facebook.com/divine Prince Ty Emeka. That's my Facebook page as well as my Instagram page. But look at my posts. Look at my posts. Look at the reemergence in Asia. Look at the reemergence in other locations in the world. Pay attention to what's happening in Africa. Pay attention to what's happening in Brazil. This is not something of a 24-hour flu. This isn't the 24-hour cold. You know, this isn't the bad hangover that might require 2-3 days for you to recuperate and regain your strength. I know we would want it to be such. We would like it to be such. And it's something about the makeup of the Westerner. I don't care what your ethnicity is. I don't care what your race is. But if you live in the West and you got Amazon and you got, you know, Walmart and you got access to, you know, the same things that we have access to, you're part of the West. You're part of the Western mindset. And we expect a pill, a quick remedy, a quick fix, and we see it projected at us every day. Eat what you want. It doesn't matter that it's going to give you indigestion, it's going to give you heartburn, it's going to tear up your insides. But if you take this pill, if you drink this potion, if you buy into this notion, you might be okay for the moment. For the moment. And some of y'all know the commercials I'm referencing. How big is that guy's gut in that commercial? We completely overlook the root of the problem, the source of the problem, the reason a problem, an issue, a block, a complication inserts itself in our path. And we look for the quick fix, the quick remedy. It's not personal, it's not individual, it's not a character defect to you or I. This is a cultural defect. This is a cultural defect. And so if we don't address it first individually, because sometimes you can protect yourself, insulate yourself from what's going on out in the world, from what's going on next door, across the street, but it always comes home to roost at some point. It always comes home to roost. We just live in a society now that has many masks and many covers. And so we say it's the taxes, and we say it's the politicians, and we give over the responsibility to the government and to our leaders. Obama gave you a clear distinction of what leadership is, a clear definition of what leadership is. So we've got to first be self-reliant, self-aware, self-protective, if you will. And then that should extend to your family, your friends, your children, your peer group, and ultimately your community. But it is very hard to see. It's very hard to hear. Even in normal times, without the virus, it's real hard to hear above the noise. It's very hard to see beyond the illusions that are presented for us. To say that we are free-thinking society, to say that we are free-thinking individuals. And indeed, those in this audience, in that spirituality and religion audience, in that audience that wants to cut ourselves away from, eliminate, that which has tied us down generationally, that has tied us down, over the centuries. We, more so than anybody, doesn't matter if it's fair, it is what it is. We have to take a greater degree of responsibility, autonomy, stewardship, and yes, leadership, mentorship, even by your example. Because some of you don't want to, organize, don't want to get your hands dirty, don't want to have to deal with other people, but you lead by your demonstration. You lead by your example. You lead by your behavior. So, man, I'm looking at the news. Are y'all paying attention to the world today? Oh my goodness. And if you just focus on the news, if you just focus on the internet, if you just focus on social media, but then neglect spirit, your spirit exercise, your spirit maintenance, just like we have to remind ourselves right now not to be sedimentary, to get up, walk around, move around. You might not be able to visit your gym, but you can exercise, you can do calisthenics, we can move our bodies, and we can, clean up the yard and clean up the attic. But don't forget to exercise your spirit. Don't forget to exercise the soul. Don't forget to exercise that kundalini and those chakra systems, and to make sure things are just as fluid there as they might be physically or in a literal sense. Make sure you get your fiber and drink plenty of water, but make sure you're also doing that spiritually. Some of us are constipated. Some of y'all are backed up with some craziness, with some nonsense. And this is the season for that to come to the surface. Oh my goodness, I love going through Facebook, not Facebook itself per se, but Facebook as it relates to our news medias that show up in Facebook. And particularly, my local news channels, and I like to go into those rooms and see who's there and see who's responding to the governor, who's responding to the mayor, who's responding, to the president or to Trump, depending on who you are, and what they're saying, in the chat. And my regular listeners, you've heard me say this before. I don't jump out there and amen or jump out there and attack. I pay attention to the details. And I often go straight to that username and I click that username and I go to that profile and you realize this person ain't posted since January 2017. This profile ain't posted since January 18. The last time this profile posted, it was the same picture 5 times, 12 times. Y'all know these profiles aren't real, right? Y'all know these profiles are being faked, and particularly now. Oh yeah, I know you don't listen to the news and you don't pay attention to the media, but those of us who do, we're aware of the Russian conspiracy. We're aware of the Ukrainian conspiracy. For those of us who are erudite, who are conscious, who are woke and well-read, for those of us born before, let me be careful before I throw out a year, before 1980, okay, who still might remember what COINTEL is and how COINTEL operates, we're not surprised. And particularly right now in this season, there's so many talking heads out there. There's so many voices out there who know you don't read, don't write, don't pay attention to the news, don't pay attention to who, and World Organization and the health department, and you're heavily reliant on what's going on in social media. You're here, you're watching me, you're listening to me right now, and you're probably listening to others as well. And so this is the battleground right here, y'all. This the battleground, this World Wide Web, this super highway of information is the battleground. And if we aren't cognizant enough to check these sources, check these identities, check these loud voices that are coming through, who are they really? When and where did these people show up from? And why now? Because they want to greatly affect your mindset, what you think and how you vote or don't vote, how you respond or don't respond. Have y'all noticed I always get a demon, I mean a fly, in the room here and lately when we start broadcasting? Yeah. My grandmama used to say, oh, if I could have been a fly on the wall. I believe that's true, y'all. Witches, demon, jinn, shapeshifters, they can inhabit nature, and I pay attention to nature. I notice the direction the birds are moving and flying in. I pay attention to what the cats in the neighborhood are doing. I pay attention to what my rooster's doing and how it acts, particularly in relation to the weather, particularly in relation to the storm that is Corona that we are passing through right now. Greetings, everyone. Kimberly Mattel. Oh, I know I stopped doing my roll call. My apologies. Di Marcus Art. Love you, brother. Thank you so much for showing up and supporting, becoming the seed. Greetings, beloved. We appreciate you and your consistency. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all for showing up. And I also am open to your questions, your comments, your requests, your reading requests. I'm here for you. That's why we're here. Just know that I'm only going to tell the truth. I'm only going to share the truth. Greetings, Orisha. I'm only going to tell it like it is. Yes, indeed. I'm not aware of that Neophyte Bokor, so I'm going to check into that. I'm going to check into that. Greetings, greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in and being present. Greetings, greetings. Fitness Girl Fun, thank you so much. Chris King, welcome back. Skye Frank, welcome, beloved. Thank you so much, everyone, for being present. Yes, it's all COINTELPRO. You know, we now call it the Russian conspiracy. We now call it the Ukrainian conspiracy, but it's all COINTELPRO. Skye is correct about that. It's all COINTELPRO. It just changes from generation to generation. It just evolves from technological advancement to technological advancement. And it changes and evolves with each new group in terms of their awakening and their awareness. I'm just a little bit older than some of you in the room, just a little bit. And so in keeping a journal and always paying attention, you notice cycles. You notice cycles, you notice seasons, both yours and those that operate around you. You notice patterns. You notice patterns. And so every 7 years, there's this change of guard. There's this shift in information, partly to keep you off balance. The minute you think you got it together, the minute you think you've caught up, we've already moved on to the next thing. The planet keeps spinning. We talked about that last week, that the world keeps turning. But then there is this other group that changes, that evolves, that shape shifts every 7 or 9 years or so. And it's that prevailing voice of what's pop culturally favorable, what's trending, what's happening right now. And it's always so important and so over the top and so life-changing in the moment during that season. And it has its heyday and people make their money off of it. And then it, you know, falls back into obscurity. And then the next trend comes in and takes over. Then the next, you know, outcropping of energy shows up, you know. And now with internet, now with everyone having access to technology, now with all of these devices, we can not only document it and record it, but we can sit back, watch it, and see it happening in real time, So there will come a day when the idea that this is all fake, this isn't real, you know, that voice will not have as much gravity in social media, and then they will move on yet to the next thing, the next distraction, the next way to get your attention. And the one thing that's consistent, persistent, is where you are spiritually. It's where you are spiritually. That keeps moving. If you're eating food, if you're reading, if you're studying, if you're doing homework, that keeps moving forward. No matter what's going on out here, no matter what the weather is out here, that continues to advance. That continues to grow. The mistake is the shortcut. There's no shortcut. There is no shortcut. I don't know how many times, I don't know how well I can express that. There is no shortcut. Thank you, everyone, for being present. Did I miss anybody? Jennifer Anderson, thank you so much for showing up with us and being a part of the audience. Thank you for your greetings and your salutations. Dead birds. Oh, wow. Now, that's interesting. Yeah, I would pay attention to that. Dead birds, dead animals, that could be problematic. Yeah, greetings, beloved. Hey, Wapani. That's my sister, y'all. Welcome, welcome. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate those who are listening to me now live on the phone, but I welcome you to come on in. Come on in with your questions, your comments, your requests. Let's always acknowledge our ancestors, always in all things. Not just on that, you know, 4th day of the week, not just on that fourth day that we acknowledge them in the ritual calendar of things, but we get up and we stand upon the strength, the shoulders of our ancestors each and every day. And in a climate where, oh my goodness, people are still being murdered and killed and lynched. I woke up to Farrakhan's most recent email blast this morning, speaking specifically about these police lynchings and these community lynchings that continue to happen in our community, that have become so regular, that have become so consistent, that many of us are desensitized now to death, desensitized now to violence. And know that that also shows up in how we act, you know, in this environment of Corona. But indeed, I'm trying to pull up that email, the final call digital for today, 11:50 this morning, because it's always so much news and you want to get your names and identities and all that kind of stuff together. I've also noticed that when I'm trying to do a broadcast, certain documents of importance, whether it's in my browser or in my Word, don't open or open really, really, really slow. So that's a distraction. And what I got in front of me right now is not what I'm looking for. So bear with me. I'm trying to open up, come on now. I'm trying to open up my final call email, digital email from this morning. And they did a really good job of speaking to the most recent victims of lynching and police brutality in our communities. Yes, indeed. It's moments like this that I wish y'all had something to say. Area code 314. Thank you, beloved, for being present. 314. Who's calling and where are you calling from? Say that again.
This is Wapani calling from St. Louis.
Hey, Wapani. I didn't recognize your number for some reason. Peace and love. What's happening, girlfriend?
That's okay. You may still have a little trauma on your mind. You were speaking about the ancestors earlier.
Yes.
And I don't know how far you got into that, but it made me think about our elders and how we live in society. It doesn't put them on the pedestal that we used to put them on, how they were the center of the community. And we have to be very cognizant to keep up with our elders. They could be on the floor in their home. They could be having a diabetic issue. And especially now when everyone is enticed to isolate themselves, it's very vital right now that we keep up with our elders.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. 100%. And I also understanding from an ATR perspective, from a Voodoo perspective, your closest living connection to your ancestors are our elders and our small babies. And so we have a responsibility, if we say we're acknowledging ancestors, to also acknowledge the living. Again, this is not just some surface practice that we do just for our own betterment, just for our own instant gratification, just to meet our own most immediate needs. But this is something that we actively have to live in and walk in and operate in each and every day. That's a real important point. And thank you for reminding me, because I wanted to talk about that in some way today. Wapani, our awareness of our elders and our attention to our elders, and how that indeed shows up as a part of our demonstration, what we say we believe what we say we understand.
Yes, absolutely. And when you're ready, I have something else. I watched the program this morning, and it made me think about your show, and I wanted to address it and see how you felt about the uprise. And now, we learned that people are injecting themselves now with melanin, trying to gain our melanin. But now they've gone to using, now that people aren't seeing each other, they're using the emojis and actually using brown or black emojis in their white people. And it makes me again question, why do they want to take our athletic ability? Why do they want to take our behind? Why do they want to take our lips? Why do they want to take our color, our accomplishments? But they hate us so vehemently. I just don't understand that mentality. And do you see something behind the scenes with that as a reason why they want to assimilate us, but want to lynch us at the same time?
Yeah. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I haven't seen that. I don't know where I should be in social media. Maybe I'm missing, the stream somewhere. But that I haven't noticed myself. Now, just in terms of what you're talking about.
It was on the reel at 5 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I really don't watch the reel. But in terms of being in social media, I am in Twitter and Instagram and Facebook every day, probably all day, and that's not something that I've seen. Now I have seen it as you described it at the cultural level. The appropriation is real, and has been for some time, going all the way back to blackface. Today, it's showing up as you described with the new technology. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank you for the support from the chat, from everyone from the chat, but for particularly those who asked me to take my time, who knew what I was trying to do, what information I was looking for. I was trying not to go into the story about police lynchings without being able to call Ahmaud Arbery by name, Breonna Taylor by name, Damian Shepard by name. And so, as my sister just stated, really so eloquently, what's with the Kim Kardashian like appropriation of the look and the culture and the feel and the sound and the vibration of what it means to be Black, and particularly Black in America, because no one is necessarily appropriating African style. No one is necessarily appropriating Ethiopian style, or Nigerian style. It is indeed the Black American, the African American experience that's being appropriated all over the world, all over the world. And it's not new, and just as I said before, you made that statement about each generation, each 7 years, it reemerges again. It shows up again as a new thing, as the new trend. So, we argued about what acting Black was in the 90s. So we don't argue about what acting Black, sounding Black is anymore. And we've embraced many celebrities, entertainers, performers who 20 years ago we would have had that discussion about acting Black. So it's now popular, what's the word, socially inappropriate, politically incorrect to even discuss that anymore. And so now we see that going on to the next level. So you got the little busybody, I don't even know the girl's name in social media, who claims she Black, believes she Black. I mean, she's been on TV, she's been on TMZ, she's been on the morning talk shows, who is now taking it to another level. And so each generation pushes that line, you know, to the next level of appropriation, of bastardization. And I often describe it as it either is not real or doesn't exist in terms of the Black experience if it can't be appropriated. If everybody can't do it, if everybody can't wear it, then it ain't important. It's not valid. And it's something about who and what we are that should be somehow silenced. And within that environment, that creates a stereotype within our own communities. So we see in Black women, you know, injecting themselves with poison now, you know, in their butts, trying to get super butt, you know, injecting stuff in their hips, now trying to get super hips. And we have people like, who's the R&B superstar, the hip hop star who just recently acknowledged that she's having all of that taken out of her body and removed, and she's trying to influence, you know, the young women of color not to do this to themselves and to value themselves more. Y'all know I can't think and talk and run chat and do a show at the same time and have a good memory, but y'all know who I'm talking about. She was just on Wendy Williams in the last coronavirus in the last month. Oh wow, what's that young girl's name? And she had a whole bunch of
Keona said K. Michelle.
Yeah, thank you, Keona. K. Michelle. Yeah, K. Michelle. And so we not only see that, again, that appropriation happening, you know, we can take everything you got, we can colonize everything you own, you know, you have nothing that we haven't created for you, you have nothing that we haven't controlled for you, but we also still see the reverberation of that in our own people, where our Black men and Black women are not healthy and happy about what they look like, how they're built, what your size might be, you know. And so that poison, that toxicity has not been addressed. As long as we don't address slavery, as long as we refuse to address post-traumatic slave disorder, as long as we go along with the sort of popular cultural belief that we're in this post-racial climate, this post-racial society, this cancer, this toxin will continue to be present on to the next generation, past you and I, Wapani, past everyone who's living and listening and existing under the sound of our voice right now. And it's interesting because just before I came on air today, I can't even remember what the trigger was. Something I saw on TV, or I'm not sure what it was, but I had to actively go into my mantra. I don't see me. Ain't no representations of me on TV. Ain't no representations of me in the culture, in the movies, in the advertisements. That's not an illusion. That's not a cartoon. That's not some, you know, supersized version of who and what we are. So that's why I have to do this. That's why I have to be present every day. That's why my voice has to be heard. That's why my face, my visage, my environment has to be seen, because I'm not being represented. There's no one speaking up for me. And so, you know, there's a support group for this and a support group for that, and you know, let's take it on Good Morning America. Let's take it on, you know, the morning news shows. You know, I didn't mean to call out one particular brand, because now I can't think of other brands to sort of tone that down. But you know, we see the, you know, what's important to them. Even when we are put in the front to push it out to you, even when we are the journalists, even when we are the actors, the performers, it is not our vision that's being drawn. It's not our vision that's being promoted. It's not our vision that's being taught. And so this poison that you speak of, Wapani, will continue, unfortunately, on to the next generation. And I think about the changes from when we were in elementary school in the 70s, to now in terms of biracial awareness, mixed race awareness. I can remember when I was in elementary school, that was unheard of. That was something rarely seen. And even if you saw it, you didn't know what you were looking at. It wasn't discussed, not in that way. Shadism was discussed. I grew up in the I like to call it the DeBarge 1970s. The DeBarges were one of the biggest groups happening in the early 80s. So when you think of the nappy, afro, corn-rolled, dreadlocked 1970s, and then now we're going into the press and comb and the texturizer and the jerry curl, and the more straight, the more acceptable, the good hair generation. I call it the DeBarge generation. If you are familiar with the DMV, Maryland, DC, Virginia area, being light-skinned was everything in the 70s and going into the 80s. The idea of being black and nappy was still a negative. As recently as when I was in junior high school, as recently as when I was in high school. So some of you now, you can't envision that. And you grew up with an Erykah Badu, with a Jill Scott, with a she, not a she, a her, and all these other visionary folk. And so it's easy to buy into we live in a post-racial society. It's easy to listen to the media and pop culture and buy into there's no racial issues except that which these noisy black folk keep bringing up. There's no racial issue except that which these noisy Asians keep invoking. If you believe what's being presented to you, on TV. But even in 2020, no one's representing me. No one's speaking for me. No one's standing up for me, in mainstream culture and mainstream media. So I have to do so. You have to do so. We have to be heard. We have to speak. I think sometimes, Wapani, you and I even, oh wow, is Val here? Forgive me, Val. I didn't even realize you were in the room. Wapani, that's Tony. That's Val. That's Val in the room. Girl, we didn't even realize you was here, But you and Wapani can specifically speak to what I'm talking about. We come from some of the most mixed, diverse, biracial, mixed racial family groups, probably in the room, And so the idea of post-racial society and black folks this and white folks that, that sticks in my craw. And as Tony suggested, as well as Wapani, we know how racially fueled everything is right now, because we can't hide from it. We can't block our ears to it. We can't then close our mouth to it either. And so we must speak. We must share. We must tell our story. We must speak to what's happening. And I did my video, and there's people that are upset about my video, that are worked up about my video. When this first came out, it was a China problem. It was all China. And I'm talking about November, December. They're having a problem over there. And chances are it's not our problem. Let's keep it rolling. And then January came. And then February came. And then now who the World Health Organization and other American statisticians are now keeping track, are now documenting numbers. And the minute it's 65% got it, are dying with it in Atlanta. 70% are dying with it in Louisiana and New Orleans. 75% are dying with it in Chicago. Then it was, let's open the country. Then it was, well, this is not that big of a deal. Then it was, let's quickly move on to the next thing. And that hasn't changed. You know, the harmony of today is, we got this discovery. This might be the answer. This might be the vaccine. No, that's why I posted all of those posts this morning, back to back to back, about the reemergence of this virus in China, the reemergence of this virus in other parts of the world. And Val, I know you paid attention to it. Pani, I know you paid attention to it. There are many others in this room who noted those posts, who paid attention to those posts. So how is it not now a racial issue? How is this not now everything to do with race and ethnicity? And who is most likely to not have access to not just this crazy experimental drug, you know, that he's willing to put himself at risk with, but the poor person, the poverty constricted person, the person has got to work every day to meet their needs. You know, that's not even a part of the argument. That's not even a part of the conversation. And so that's why, as activists, as revolutionaries, you know, we have to stay on the front lines of stay home. We got to stay on the front lines of protect your ass. We've got to stay on the front lines of, if you don't have to run out there, don't run out there. It's nothing more important than your life. Nothing. And we know how much they care about your life. I compare it to slavery.
Even us as individuals don't seem to care as much as we should. I had someone to invite me to a fish fry at the end of June and wanted to know if my son would come cook because he's a chef. The first thing that came to my mind is, you ain't never said boo about my son, so why do you want to hire him to come do something now? And not even hire, just have him come cook for free. And so my response was, number one, no, he will not be coming. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of June. And I promise you there's going to be a resurgence because everybody's too busy trying to get out their house and get back to life as, you know, the status quo. And there is no status quo.
That's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you all so much for being on my phone lines, but I welcome you all to press the number 1. Don't forget to press the number 1 if you have a question, comment, or request, so that I can bring you into the conversation. And Val, I don't know why your hand is not raised, because I know you got something to say. You always got something to say. So 901, let's yeah. Thank you kindly, and welcome to the conversation, Val. So 901. Turn your YouTube down because you're getting the reverb. Welcome to the conversation, Val. Yeah, turn that background down and come on the phone. Thank you. Come on in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Welcome, beloved. Turn that background noise down a
little
bit.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you. Peace and blessings. I know you have something to say. You most always do.
Peace and blessings, Queen. I hear you in the background. One thing, I just bought a T-shirt that says lightly melanated, hella black, because I am so sick of people asking me, what are you? What are you? When they see my straight hair, my light complexion, and my green eyes.
So I say, hella black, try me. That's on that issue. But let's get to this coronavirus issue. It just breaks my heart that my people, mostly as a whole, but don't get me wrong, not everybody, but we need us as a whole, don't have any control over themselves. No, I mean, they just can't stay in. And Bogalusa, they had over 700 people attend an event while a lockdown is going on here in Louisiana that the police knew nothing about, but you know, time we hear some second line music, there we go. You know, 13 people got shot up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess people was waiting for them to come out.
And
I guess people was waiting. They gonna come outside eventually.
And let's be clear.
And that's what happened.
It was 500 people out there.
Over 500 at the time of the shooting, and only 5 police officers in the whole city working. Nobody knows. They don't even know who the shooters in the drive-by are.
Speak up, Wapani.
But they just had to go have a second line because it was a funeral. For one, you under lockdown with a deadly disease that's affecting mostly Black and brown people. Why can't you just say, well, maybe I should listen? Sometimes we're so busy being rebellious, we rebel at the wrong time. We rebel against the wrong things.
That's right. And did
I
you
mean,
see that video?
I only want to bury my son. Well, because you wanted to bury your son, who knows how many other families out that 13, because some had to be flown away, got to bury theirs now.
But hold
some
on.
had to be flown to trauma centers.
But hold on, Tony. Did you see the video? See, they tried to blur out the video. I saw it was a Mardi Gras Indian in the video. It was a Black Indian in the video. So did
They have Black Indians in that area.
Okay, I was wondering, did they travel there just for that?
No, they have Mardi Gras Indians all over Louisiana, quiet as it kept. Range, Louisiana has a large Mardi Gras Indian culture there. Lafayette, Lake Charles, they come out on Mardi Gras Day. It's just not as promoted as it is in New Orleans. But yeah, it's a large culture across Louisiana that they don't talk about. Of course, they can't hide the Indian culture in New Orleans, but the ones in those areas not promoting it that well. And of course, the news media not going to promote it because they don't want it to spread. They don't want any kind of knowledge and stuff to spread about us. But I'm not surprised somebody was mad. I mean, I'm thinking Bogalusa only got 12,000 residents in it. I'm like, oh my God, there must have been such a huge crowd of Black people out there.
Oh yeah. In the middle of this coronavirus.
So now I'm listening in 2 weeks to hear the spike of coronavirus cases in that area.
Well, someone
You
else
ain't gonna hear about that.
No, Wapani, you're right. And someone else introduced into the conversation that there was also a city-sponsored event in Shreveport over the weekend that drew thousands of people. Did you hear about that? I know.
About what?
About this city sponsored barbecue that they had in Shreveport over the weekend?
No, I didn't hear about that one. I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, someone introduced
it. But if you notice, if you notice and pay attention to the media, as soon as the media started really pumping hard that it was black and brown people who were mainly dying from coronavirus, that Trump was tired of coronavirus. He wanted to go away now. He wanted everything opened up. He don't want to talk about it no more. He don't want to do this, that, and the other thing. We don't hear about that second wave coming real bad no more. And it's like, okay, it's gonna magically disappear.
Right. And if you remember, my regular listeners know that a good while back, I suggested that Trump was sick. A good while back, I suggested that Trump had already been exposed to this virus. And so now his team, and those around him now are manifesting.
You talked about this personally.
Yeah, are now manifesting the virus. So that's the only reason he's giving it any attention at all, is because now that footprint is around him. And he probably contracted it from that Brazilian.
He was a typhoid Mary in the White House, I believe, and he refused to wear a mask out of vanity.
You think it's just vanity?
The 7 deadly sins.
You think it's vanity or ignorance or racism?
I think it's vanity. Racism is him not wanting to unveil President Barack Obama's portrait at the White House, which has been a 40-year tradition. I think that's his racism coming out. But his vanity of covering his face is why he won't wear a mask.
What you say, Wapani?
Yeah,
in his mind.
What you say, Wapani?
I think it's his ego as well, because he's one of the big. Can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up for me.
He's one of the biggest narcissists I have ever known, and so many of his traits remind me of Joe Louis.
Yes, indeed.
That his cohorts like to say he likes to browbeat people. He likes to stare them down into some type of humiliated submission. If you don't agree with him, he got a problem with that. Now you're fired, you're kicked out. That's what happened with Fossey originally until everybody made an uproar, which speaks volumes. If we would learn how to speak nice and create that in front, ain't nothing he can do with that.
Yeah, I agree. So you agree with Val then that he doesn't cover his face up just purely out of vanity?
I don't know if it's purely vanity, but yeah, I think that's a huge portion of it. Even recently, he was shown out with his people. They had masks on, but not him. It's like he invincible or something. He thinks he, the next white messiah.
Yeah, and Raina Love brings up a point that I also noted was, how is he now taking the Hydra? I can't even pronounce that, y'all.
Hydrochloroquine.
Yeah, the hydrochloroquine for 2 years if he don't have it, and if he doesn't have lupus or MS or other conditions, pre-existing conditions. How, other than the fact that he's an entitled white man in the White House, how otherwise would he then be taking this drug in the first place? And so I believe that no sensible person will put themselves at the risk of what we know this drug can do if they don't have the Corona-19.
Okay, last night they broke it down and spoke on how is it that he is available to get the hydrochloroquine, and they said that presidents are not treated medically as other people in the United States simply because they were the president. To say like if something happened to me, that would only affect my family. But if something happened to a president, it affects the whole United States. This just didn't start with Trump on that ground, because John F. Kennedy was getting so many drugs pumped into him from the White House doctors that we didn't know about until now, after the Freedom of Information Act is exposed. Kennedy was very sick. He was on all kind of pills. And last night it came out also that Trump has a heart condition. And to add that, he's morbidly obese. Mm-hmm. So when they gave him his physical, a heart condition that he's had for a while, remember, he's going on 74 years old. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they said he had this for a while, this heart condition, but then still, when they did his physical after he became the president, they gave him a clean bill of health. Well, this heart condition he has, you know, automatically that takes him out of clean bill of health.
Right.
So now, from listening to all the stuff they saying about hydrochloroquine, that it aggravates heart condition.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is he lying that he's taking it because he has some investment in a company that makes hydrochloroquine? Because he's such a liar.
That's right.
He's such a liar, and he know that all his little Trumpsters gonna watch out to the doctors that are Trumpsters, and they gonna get prescribed hydrochloroquine. It's a manufactured drug. Sure, lupus patients have a hard time getting it, but to my understanding, I think blacks and browns outnumber other people with having lupus.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise that that medicine would be in limited supply when we need it, but when they need it, watch it pump out, because about in the middle of March, the governor of California said that Trump called him and tried to get him to purchase so much of this hydrochloroquine that he said himself, he thought he was being pumped on the phone. He thought it wasn't Trump, that he was being pumped.
Yeah, it's
but he said no.
Hold on, Tony. Wapani, you gotta just speak louder. Just jump in and speak.
It's actually it's pronounced hydroxychloroquine. Not to be that particular. I'm a writer, and I was in the medical field before I got my back hurt, but it's hydroxychloroquine.
Okay. Thank you. Is that all you had to say, girlfriend?
Well, we can call it Kool-Aid now. We can call it Kool-Aid now. That's the new Kool-Aid flavor.
He's quick to want to be the first for something, but not allow nobody else. Now, remind you, he is the one who said openly, you know, he mails in his vote, but can't nobody else do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
military mail in their vote.
You said the military?
Yeah, military. Where my military people at? The military, when they be in Afghanistan and all outside the USA, they mail in their ballot.
Wow. So what's the problem then with the American people mailing in their ballot if they are made to stay at home? How else you gonna vote? I mean, maybe that's the issue.
He trying to get rid of the U.S. Post Office. And the post office, I read today, got over 500 employees infected with the coronavirus, and they only have enough money to operate until September.
Mm-hmm.
I did not hear that. That's crazy. That's
Google it.
I will. I do my research. So when I hear something, I definitely look it up, and that gets my brother calls me a conspiracy theorist, but that gets his mind going. Too many things are lining up for me.
Oh yeah. And it's not that I don't think that there are conspiracies out there. I just think that sometimes we you know, reality is often scarier than fiction. And so I think sometimes we just go way too far out there when the truth and the reality is often right in our face, and it's much more entertaining than any, you know, some of these really outlandish conspiracy theories that often go around. Like the idea that this didn't affect Black people. That was an outlandish conspiracy theory that ended up hurting us and didn't even have to be out there.
Yes, indeed.
My wonder is this new aspect of coronavirus that seems to be gaining speed amongst children. We didn't hear about this until I heard about it from Como, the New York governor, brought it up because at the time they had 20 children in the hospital and 2 dead. So you know me, I went to looking it up. Well, it had never been really talked about nationally, and I come to find out children in Louisiana suffered from it. Children in California suffered from it. The last I saw it was 180 affected children with about 5 deaths. The pictures of the children on the ventilators and with all those tools up their nose, up their arms is heartbreaking. White kids and Black kids and brown kids that's affected by it. Now, I'm wondering if this thing really takes speed, if all these people out in the street clamoring for everything to reopen already are willing to sacrifice the lives of their children. Because throughout the whole coronavirus that's been going on up until now, I would see parents shopping with masks on, and their kids didn't have masks on, running around touching everything because it came out that coronavirus didn't affect you.
That's right.
Now we learned something new.
That's right. And I keep saying it's a big difference between your patriot, conservative, Republican, evangelical protester who chances are is not poor, who chances are is not struggling, who chances are is not disadvantaged in the way we, people of color, indeed are. It's a complete different thing for them to be out there and to risk their life, you know, to stand up for their entitlement. It's a whole nother thing when my people believe it and are going about like business as usual. You know, I get quite a bit of deliveries, y'all know. So I see postal employees every day. I see FedEx employees every day. I see UPS employees every day. Now, I'm not using Uber, but my neighbors are. So I see the Uber drivers pull up on my block. Ain't nobody got no mask on. Nobody under 50 has a mask on. And like Tony Elwapani just suggested, it's like nothing is happening. It's like they're in line with what these patriots are saying, and there's no difference. I remember when Farrakhan first noted that for me back in the 80s, this similarity between what white supremacists are saying and then what this, you know, this conscious sort of radical edge of Black community is saying, and the similarities in those messages. But the difference is going to be the outcome. The difference is going to be the outcome. We can't afford it. We don't have the backup for that. We don't have anything in place to protect ourselves and our community if this outbreak continues within our neighborhoods, So I'm not doing what everybody else is doing. I'm doing what's in my best interest. My ACE card, the most selfish card in the deck. It's not negative. It's not toxic. It's about self-care, self-awareness, doing what's in your own best interest and the sake of that of your family. Listen, y'all, I appreciate you at area code 845-277-9143. We do invite you to press the number 1 on your telephone keypad so that we can bring you as well into the conversation. Yeah, your vote does really count, Raina. I feel like now you just touched on something that's a hot topic for me and Val, because I say all the time, a no vote is a vote for the oppressor. When we don't get involved, it's a vote for the oppressor. Now, Raina, if you're one who does not vote, but then you have a loud voice, you have an active voice, you're doing to sort of move things forward in your community, then hey, I can't judge you. But often when I find people say, well, but I don't vote and it's not worth the vote, they're not doing anything else to sort of turn the tide for their community actively. And that's my part of the argument. Tony, I know you're there. Miss Tony Val.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let's hear your opinion about
Well,
that.
you know, me and you have this. Me and you have this conversation all the time about it. And my biggest concern is, as always, and what we must take an active part in doing away with the electoral college.
Yeah.
Because I hear people all the time on Facebook, on social media saying Black people didn't get out and vote and Black people didn't. Yes, we did. People seem to forget that Hillary Clinton won the election by millions of votes. The electoral college took that away from her and gave it to Trump.
That's right.
That's right.
So people do get out and vote. Black people do go out and vote. But we have that famous veto button that's held by the electoral college. While Trump was in office this 4 years, that's what we should have been working on. Getting rid of the electoral college, which a lot of people, no matter how much I posted about the electoral college, a lot of people still don't know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's because
a lot of people still don't know about it.
And they don't know about that district either.
Say that again.
You know what I'm saying?
Hold on, Tony.
So that should.
Tony, hold on for a second. Say that again, Wapani.
Okay.
That districting, how they like when you go to buy a house. I tried it when we go to this house. They would not tell me how many Black people were in the neighborhood. Nothing like that. No demographics of any kind, political party, nothing. But they will place you in a neighborhood according to your demographic, according to if you're Republican or Democratic, because that also has a tendency to overshadow the vote. If they have a certain number of Republican votes in a district, they want to take that and supersede that over the entire popular vote, because now they're going by this districting that they set up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So how then do
and guess what?
Go ahead.
As gentrification enters the program, you may have heard that they are rearranging those districting lines. As gentrification takes over, they change the maps in the lines, the red lines, the blue line, what they call it, blue lining, where they take and change because more white people have moved into that district now. So now they can't keep it the way it was. They need to get more delegates for the electoral college.
Yeah, I agree. Wow. So how then do we continue to tell people, as I do, that they should vote, that they vote does count? How do we keep people actively participating in the process? Because again, I'm not against a person who chooses not to vote. but are they active in the process? That's what's important to me. Thank you,
Right.
Keona.
And I like what Raina Love said. I vote because our ancestors went through too much so we could have the right to vote.
I agree.
And that's why I'm registered to vote. That's why I registered to vote, to show support for our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Last month, I went up, well, we had a recent vote. I don't remember when it was now, but when I looked it up, I saw it. I didn't see it on TV. Nobody told me nothing about it, but I was just curious. I went up there, and when I walked in, it's like I live in an exclusively white neighborhood. We are the only Black people to live in my area. So when I walked in there and I see all these baseball cap wearing, overall wearing white folks sitting around the table, and it's only like 7 of them, and there's no one else there, and I'm dressed in my normal African garb that I like to wear, they looked at me and I said, aren't we voting today? And they actually turned out to be really friendly people. The one guy was like, girl, I think you're a little anxious, so it was the next day. But that's how serious I am about voting. If I know something should be coming up, then my brother says all the time, in this day and age, you have no excuse to be bored. There's no such thing as bored. There's too much that you can do, too much you can learn. My thing is research. I hadn't voted in a little minute. I needed to know when it was coming up, so I looked it up. And we have to become more proactive in our own development, because nobody else is going to develop us, and nobody will develop us if we don't develop the individual.
I absolutely agree. Area code 757. Welcome to the conversation. Who's calling and where are you calling from?
Hi, beloved divine presence. This is Treehouse.
Say your name again. You broke up a little
Hi,
bit.
everyone. Oh, it's Oracle Treehouse. I'm sorry.
Oh. Hey, how you doing, beloved?
I'm good. How are you?
All is a blessing. All is a blessing.
Right. Hello, everyone.
Hello. I'm sorry. I was so caught up reading the messages in the chat as I listened to my brother on Blog Radio. I'm sorry.
No, you good. Good conversation. Totally agree with what everybody's talking about. But I believe that's how he's going to quote unquote win. Now I've heard that they say that even if he does lose, that he's gonna act like a baby and not want to leave the White House. I hope that's the case. They really do need to get rid of this congressional college thing, because like my beloved said, that's how he won that congressional college BS. And I believe that's how he might try to win again. That's if we don't come out and actually vote like we're supposed to. I mean, personally, I am going to vote. I thought about not voting at one point in time, but I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to do it, because like beloved said before, our ancestors did get to fight for us to have this right. So I'm going to use it and just be like, divine God, I need you to help get him out of there, because this is ridiculous. But for some reason, people are saying that even if he does lose, he's not going to lose, which I think is crazy. But it do sound like him.
Yeah, it does. And indeed, it would be crazy. It would be hella entertaining. But I don't know if he legally, has any real precedent, to just refuse to move. Something else too I want to say, and I want to get it on record. I need y'all to pay attention. He's not going to survive. I see that. I've had a dream. I've had a vision. He won't survive past December. Now I'm bold enough to say it right here live on air. It's in archives, so y'all can pull it back out later on, and you can roast me if you want to. I don't see him surviving past December. Now, what I'm not clear about is Corona heart problems from taking the experimental drug. I'm not sure exactly what. I am clear on health. I'm clear on some kind of death, surrounding the White House. So I'm predicting right now, live on air, that he does not physically make it into 2021.
Beloved Divine Prince, it's interesting that you say that. I don't know if everyone knows who, oh my God, I can see her face. Oh my goodness, Sylvia Brown. When all of this started, everybody was quoting something from one of her books that she had actually predicted. She didn't say actually corona, but she said that this disease would come that affects the lungs and the respiratory system. It will come, it'll go, it'll come back, and then it'll go again. But she also mentioned something about a sitting president during this time would pass. She would have. She said something about heart issues, but I was like, oh my God, I like it, you made the prediction right there. So
yeah, that resonates with what I see. Yeah, that resonates with what I see. Some kind of stroke, some kind of heart attack. When we think back to like Bush and Asia, they tried to kill Bush and Asia. Do y'all remember that? So I now, Val, I know you remember that. I don't see him surviving this. I just don't. And when I think of countries like Russia and China and what they do when they want to get rid of somebody, if they can't blow some powder in your face or touch you physically with some kind of toxic agent, there's always this connection to heart and heart problems. When you look at Russia, for instance, and how they've gotten rid of many of their elected officials. So I'm not even sure if it comes from a foreign national or if it comes from right within our country. What I'm certain of is that, as Keona said, he doesn't survive. That it's a reoccurring thing, in the dream state. So I'm willing to put that on record. Oh, thank you. So many people in the room.
I don't even know what to say.
Say that again, Wapani.
That's powerful. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing that keeps through my spirit is it is so.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I hear in my head.
Yeah. And it's not the kind of thing I take lightly.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, Mitch McConnell then said that if Trump is not elected again, the Republicans will block anything coming down the pipe that the new president recommends, signs, the House, anything. They gonna block it straight off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So he's fear-mongering right now against the white people, making them fearful that if, the House recommends or puts into act that Social Security not be cut, that food stamps and welfare, because and I know they're the biggest recipients of all of those things, except maybe Social Security, because black don't crack as fast as Paul Smith.
Yes, indeed.
But they're afraid that simply because the new administration says it, that it'll be vetoed and won't go nowhere, and then they'll vote to cut it. They'll get a vote and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to cut it.
No, but then they
threaten. And it gets cut. So he's already putting fear in white America, as much saying, you better vote for Trump. You better vote for Trump. The only way the Electoral College is not going to intervene in this new election is if Trump actually wins by the vote. So my big hope is that the Electoral College will be afraid to elect him 2 times in a row. Because not all white people like him.
That's for sure.
You got many anti-Trump white people. And to pit the anti-Trump against the pro-Trump because of the Electoral College, that could actually start a war.
A civil war.
That will be swept up into, just like we got swept up into the Civil War, because that Civil War was not about freeing the slaves.
Yeah, did not predict the Civil War yesterday.
A lot of people think the Civil War was about freeing the slaves. That's not true.
It's about freeing the economy.
It was about the economy between the North and the South. The South, who was the producer of the textiles, and the North was the they were the growers and the manufacturers up north that turned them the cotton into sheets and shirts and all this stuff. So that's what that war was about. But we got swept up to it, and the war would not stop. And Abraham Lincoln played a card saying, well, South, if you don't bow down, I'm going to free the slaves. And he thought that was going to make them back out. But ain't nothing more stubborn than Southern White Ku Klux Klan. And they made him call his hand. And he had no choice but to say, I got to free the slaves because I already stated. If he would have went back on that, the war, we still be fighting the Civil War right now.
Yeah.
We'll still be fighting the Civil War. But our only recourse is either Trump is totally defeated and the Electoral College is afraid to do it to us a second time. So you have to get out and vote on that assumption.
That's right. That's right. And those of you who still...
You have to get out on that assumption.
That's right. And those of you who are still not going to get out and vote, you have to make sure others do. You have to make sure that your voice is heard. You got to make sure that a demonstration... You have to make sure that a demonstration is made so that we live and exist in the environment that we choose. I agree with your right to say not to vote, Dee Dee. I agree with your right to believe that the vote doesn't count. I just don't agree. I just don't agree. And I still think we have an opportunity to make a difference, to make a change, more so now than ever before. We're finding that the millennials, they don't believe like we believe. You know, it's almost like what's the horror movie? Skeleton Key. You know, they don't believe like they used to believe anymore. You know, it just takes them so much longer now to believe. But we've got to make it clear to them. Not only, as Wapani said, do we need to check in on and look out for, you know, our elders, but we need to listen to them more. Their opinions matter, and their opinions over the generations have shaped the community action, the community activity that we took along the way, within and outside of that whole religious dynamic. There's a whole active part of the Black community that's completely separate from the Black church. It's not controlled, you know, by the Black church. And we at the street level, at the grassroots level, and particularly in this format, have an opportunity to teach, to share, to influence thousands of people, maybe millions of people when we pull our energy together. But we can't be silent. We can't be inactive. We have to be active participants. And all my witches and wannabe witches and practitioners and bruja out there and brujo out there, you know, you have somewhere now to focus your energy. You now have somewhere to target, you know, your energetic scientific activities, you know, and write them down. Make sure you're being clear about your target. Make sure you're being clear about where you're focusing your energy. But by all means, we must do something. We can't just, hey, Keona, welcome to the conversation, beloved. We can't just sit back and just allow it to happen the way we've done in previous elections. Greetings, beloved. Your mic is open. 323, Keona, you just rose your hand. I thought you had something to say, girlfriend. Greetings, hello. Hello. Okay. I invite you all before you run out of time to call me at area code 845-277-9143. Area code 845-277-9143. Please do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad when you are ready with your question, comment, or request. That virtually raises your hand for me here on the switchboard and gives me the opportunity to open your mic and still bring you into the conversation. DD, what are you saying? Okay, now listen, I get the fake illusions, but you got to be specific. You got to be specific. Well, when going into battle, you know, a general has to choose a target and has to be clear about what the target is. So it's not enough to, you know, collect your stimulus check, you know, pay taxes, walk around and carry a Social Security number and then not actively participate in the process. Area code 612. Who's calling and where are you calling from? Oh, okay, wait a minute. My apologies, y'all. I had everything on mute. My apologies. So Keona, I didn't hear a word you said. Keona, I didn't hear a word you said, girlfriend. And if anybody was talking, I didn't hear you. My apology. I had the computer on mute because I keep getting the dings and the pings, and I muted the computer momentarily. Area code 612, your mic is now open. Who's calling? Hello? That's got to be okay. That's got to be Sterling because we can't hear you. So that's got to be Sterling. Calling on area code 612. Thank you. Keona is back. Let me open her mic. My apologies, beloved. It was all on me. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, always a blessing. Regardless of what president that we have, they are the spokesperson. They are the voice. They are the face. When will people finally accept? There are people, families that have been running this entire world for centuries. So because you see him standing there with that hairpiece looking like it's possessed, he is not the one making that decision.
I agree with that.
He is not the one making that decision.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
The Wizard of Oz showed us that so many years ago about the man behind the curtain. What you see out front. The president is just a figurehead.
Yeah.
For those that actually run the country, I do believe that. So when you see this country, they allowing Trump. I thought, of according to the Constitution of the United States, that we the people had the right to remove any president that wasn't working in the best interest of the country. That's what I thought. It was we the people that give them the power, but that's how they got us believing, because apparently we see that. It's a long line of families and organizations that actually put the one president up there instead of a corporation. Like futuristic movies are telling us that eventually the country will be ruled by corporations. But still in all, he's the figurehead. And even those people that's running the country really don't want it exposed right now. So they have to give the president a certain leeway to do certain things.
That is correct. Just like with the government here. In each state, the president says, do not reopen. These governors have the right. So why would someone say, oh, they don't want to go vote at the presidential election? There's other elections besides that one that people look over. They don't look at every election. Our ancestors built that White House. Our ancestors' blood is in the soil. They hung from trees. So it is, to me, when I say with great passion, a flat out insult to sit there and say that you would not say anything by casting your vote because you don't matter. Because you said that they don't matter. You said that they were sick, that their genitals were hung, cut off, that they were stood naked on the auction post to be auctioned off like property, and they did it in vain. That you would stand in that bloodline and don't say nothing. Then you keep quiet. Then you forever don't say nothing. Don't complain. Don't say nothing. Be mom. Be mom. Don't say nothing. Because we have a right, our blood right, to stand up and say something. Vote.
Yeah,
Vote.
I agree. Absolutely.
Have a voice.
You give away your power by not voting. Area code 310. 310. Who's calling? Where are you calling from?
This Dee.
Hey, Dee, thank you for calling in.
Did you know, my baby, I'm going to love you and my sisters on this show.
Okay.
But we built all of this. They would have a Republican Party or a Democrat Party besides what we did. We're the original people. I don't got to vote for you. Y'all ain't vote for us. Y'all don't take care of us. You give us welfare programs and your fake institutions of what your prisons is building. Vote for what? So what are you doing for us? And then what I get, that we can't even take care of ourselves and love each other and even each other. Yourself. We lost all things, building things for these people. Something got to give, and it ain't no vote. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's just not no vote.
Listen, I hear you, beloved, and I, to a certain extent, I agree with your premise.
I don't agree at all.
My problem is
I do not agree at all.
To argue with my brothers.
I do not agree at all, because guess what? This world does not owe us nothing. As far as we talk about them people and that, because some of those people, they're in our blood too. We're not 100% African. We're not 100% anything. So some of those people, just besides us having their last name, some of their blood is in us too. So, and not all of them were evil, and not all of them did us wrong. So we can't do that. We can't pull that victim card. But we have a voice. We have a voice to be able to say something.
People, controlling them, controlling their free will, controlling with their religion and how they think. You're supposed to think like this. You're supposed to think that. No, I want to see my sister being beautiful and who she is and how she thinks, and I appreciate that. Like, if you disagree with me, I'm fine with that. If
no. So we're saying two different things, God. We're saying two different things. Your path, that's a calling. Your path is what you're supposed to do. That's why you're here. What I'm saying is that we had slaves right? There were congressmen, councilmen. During slavery,
And some of them were pedophiles. They rape little kids.
No. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not trying to paint a picture that they were perfect people. So I want you to please hear me with an open heart. I'm not passing judgment upon you. What I'm saying to you is that our vote is our voice. It's not just a presidential election. There are other votes for vote for judges. So we talk about the judicial system. We talk about that we have more black men that's locked up than right now than there were men that were captured and sold into slavery, right? So who are voting these judges here? Who are voting these wardens into these prisons? So if you don't go vote, then how can you say that you want to complain about this control and do that? Because it was someone's vote to put that judge in that seat. He didn't get there because he was voted to still out here.
That's those ones you voting for. Do you really go research what they were doing? They passed their bloodline. Nobody do that.
People do that. What I'm trying to articulate to you. Not every single person, but people who do that.
Still go on today.
And you know why they're able to have such presidents, and you know why they're able to have so much power? It's because we don't say nothing. We've been doing this as black people for years. The police can come and somebody can get murdered. The police can come and somebody can get murdered.
Hold on, y'all. We can't hear both of y'all if y'all talking over each other.
For years, we don't say nothing.
Keona, hold on. Now, I there are aspects of what both of you are saying that I agree with. I just think that we're crossing over into too many different areas when we look at voting as being either the be all to everything, or to take the other side, as, you know, somehow just not worth our time at all. And see, my problem with that is, okay, when you don't vote and then they say slavery is back in effect, or they said we're going to charge more in the black neighborhood, or they said we're going to tax more in the black neighborhood, our only protection is those few black folks that voted, those few white folks that voted in our best interest in that particular case scenario, if we just choose not to vote. I'm also concerned about all these new black female judges. How are all these black female judges and congressmen and mayors making it into office if we don't vote? We can't say it's happening purely on the white vote. Particularly if I take your position, it's all wicked. So why then would they be voting black women in the office? Unless you're saying those black women are wicked. Why would they then be voting black mayors into office? Unless you're in agreement that they are somehow completely surrendered to the system. And I also want to say everybody's mic is open, including yours, Sterling. You have just got to speak up. If we can't hear you, especially in a conversation like this, then it's a struggle.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember that New York judge that was murdered in New York, and they put her body in the Hudson River?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Eric, she was Islam.
Area code 318. Who's calling and where are you calling from?
This Hoodoo Occultism. How y'all doing?
Greetings, beloved. Yeah, I remember that.
I get what both of them saying. I get what Keona saying, and you know, and agreeing with you. It's just a little background on the start, but I get what Keona saying because, like, for instance, the boy who got shot just recently in Georgia, that could have been a law. In Georgia, there's laws to say citizens police to other citizens if they find them doing something wrong, right? And that could have been a law that we skipped out on and then vote, and white people voted for it. So I get what Keona's saying, and yeah, it is true. Like, okay, we have to vote. We have to be aware of the laws that have been passed, and now they can arrest you on some stuff and say, hey, you arrested, you got to go to jail. And then as soon as you resist, you say, no, I'm not going to jail. But hey, you just skipped out on the because you ain't voted. So I get what she's saying too. You know what I mean? But also I get what the other young lady saying, because this is a fake system. But we have to understand that if we're gonna eradicate the system, they'll have to hurt. Somebody gonna have to risk their lives for it. And if we ain't ready to risk our lives for it, then we need to vote.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's real easy to take a Hoodoo Occultism. I'm just gonna have to mute you. Yeah, go ahead, beloved.
Okay, what if we couldn't vote? What would be our recourse to make things better to us if we couldn't vote?
I think that's a good question. That has everything to do with what I was getting ready to say. You know, are we willing to overthrow the system? Are we willing to get rid of the system? Are we willing to stand up and put our lives on the line for it? And until that happens, or we're in that place, then we're forced to play the hand we're dealt. We're forced to play within the game that's already being presented.
I like to
Another thing.
Let me interject.
Hold on, Val.
Okay,
Do the listeners?
Hold on, Val. Go ahead, Wapani, but you got to speak up. You and Sterling have to project more.
Yeah, when I was talking, everyone was talking, so that's okay. But I also see all sides, and I look at it this way. What can we do to change all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I agree with the brother said we need to learn the law. And how is a law made? Well, it comes from a bill. How do you get a bill passed? Right to representatives. There's a process. There's a research process. And once you do, you can teach it to others, but also teach others how to support ourselves in our community. How do we bind together and enrich our own community? How do we make a better school system, a better curriculum? You got to learn to research that, start implementing it. And once you start doing that, these, like my brother said, these representatives didn't just get put in there. That's not a part of a great scheme on the big run. Yeah, it is, but not. What I'm saying is we have the ability to affect that. I've seen it. I saw it in a small municipality I lived in. I was in Mississippi at the time, so we're around. And the people didn't vote. They ever did anything. And finally, somebody came in there and started teaching them, taught them how it does work. Who do you want to come in the office? It was a second person. They voted. They got what they wanted. And the other person had something like a 20-something year reign. So we can change, but we have to start teaching each other and teaching ourselves about the law and the system. As much as we don't want to be a part of it, you know, be in it, but not of it.
Yeah, I agree. And my thing is, particularly from what I deal with every day, it's a struggle. Listen, it's a struggle to teach some of y'all, to share with some of y'all, to help you move to the next level, because some of us don't want to do no work. Some of us don't want to have to read. So some of us don't want to have to look at the legislation. So some of us don't want to have to figure out what these words mean. And it's so much easier if somebody else do it, if somebody else takes the position. I look at our community. You know, we push a handful of leaders up to the front line and often sacrifice them in the process. We push a handful of people to the front, and then when they get to the front and they speak loudly with authority and conviction, then we don't support them. Then we aren't there to back them up. Then we are there to support them, you know, with our dollar or our dime, you know, or with our time and our effort. And we keep, every generation, we keep sacrificing our leaders and pushing a handful, a dozen of leaders out there, and they give their lives for us. Their families give up their lives and their space for us. And then we fall back and wait for the next the next one, or the next group. And how do we move beyond that mindset? But particularly with all of this technology at our availability, how do we move en masse beyond that mindset? Other than the same dozen or so people, the same handful of people, you know, putting their neck out, stretching out to be on the front line. You know, I talk about it sometimes as it relates to me. You know, y'all gonna hold my name up after I'm dead. Y'all not gonna support me now. You're not gonna click like. You're not gonna subscribe. You're not gonna share. You're gonna, you know, you're gonna sit and listen and love the entertaining show. But many of you ain't gonna support me until I'm gone. Just like our artists and our great artisans. And so we've got to stop repeating that cycle of sacrificing our leaders, sacrificing our elders, separating the loud voices, the loud activists from the community, and allowing them to be fodder in this battle while we sit back and complain, while we sit back and critique. We've got to take a more proactive position in what's going on than we ever did. Than we ever did in garbage time, than we ever did in the 50s and the 60s, than we ever did in the 70s. It's not going to get easier as we move forward. It would be nice if it did, but it's not going to get easier. It's going to require that much more of us. It's going to require that much more effort from us. Sterling, beloved, your mic is still open. I would love to hear from you today. Okay.
Well, I wanted to finish with saying what I was trying to say.
Go ahead.
Oftentimes, as Black people, we have to change our narrative. We have to stop not being heard. We have to stitches get stitches. We got to cut that out. Speak up, vote. Another thing that I wanted to say. A lot of times, a lot of us see ourselves as a welfare recipient. And what can the government give to us? In order for the government to give, if that's how you want to view it, you have to be able to vote so they'll know. You have to complete the census so they'll know who's in your area to be able to put the funding there. But we say, oh, you know, they don't care about us. What are they supposed to? Did they care about you when they stole your ancestors and purchased them and brought them over here? When was that going to change? Because they gave you your freedom papers, they was going to like you all of a sudden because y'all have the same skin complexion? Like, come on. And I'm passionate about voting because I remember going to the voting polls as a child. And people ask me now, do you vote? I've been voting since I was 18 years old, and I will always vote. Am I happy with what I see? No, I'm not, but I'm not going to not vote. And I'm off it.
Well, we appreciate your opinion and your comments.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, I just feel like we're at a day and age where people are losing hope in the system, and they're seeing that voting is a task that simply just keeps things stagnant in one way or another, considering that there's so much corruption going on in the deep state. So I just feel like people are about ready for a complete paradigm shift.
Thank you.
A new government by any means necessary.
Thank you.
Now I ask you and Dee Dee, how does that happen? And how soon are y'all gonna be armed?
You're not depending on things that don't help you. Now, the sister said we was on these slave ships. I study more science. So I already know our people were already over here and they slaughtered our people. Vote for what? You only had 13 colonies. And you was right over there.
Dee, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Dee Harmon, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, that's who's talking, right?
Listen, hold up. I study more science.
You never answered my question.
And
I asked you 3 times. You never answered my question. So if we do not vote, what then are we to do? Exactly. I want to know, how soon are you going to be armed, and what do you plan to do? Because ain't nothing going to change.
For me, it's nothing but death.
So you're saying that there's no option.
I'm not going to keep living like this and thinking about voting and
wait. Like Didi, I'm trying to understand you. Stop getting upset. So what you're saying is we're going to die regardless? So don't vote and just prepare to...
No, I'm not saying that, but vote ain't going to be the cure for everything.
I didn't say it was.
It's not.
I didn't say it was, and I made that clear. It's not the be-all to everything. I said that. But on the flip side, when you're not voting, you're giving other people the option to make a choice for you. And based on what you're saying, that ain't acceptable.
De facto laws. And that's stuff that they made up for themselves. And them people in Congress are pedophiles, and they do more worse stuff than we even do.
So
on
you're
the street.
So you're saying that the black
people never stay on with no laws that they do. So why would I want to work for y'all? And I know what y'all are.
Hold it. So you're saying that the black politicians, the black female judges, the black mayors, that they all pedophiles?
I ain't say all of them are, but some of them cover themselves up. Did you see Andrew Gillum out there having a good time? And you got a wife and kids, but you having fun. I don't get a chance to do that. I think about my people all day. They don't never leave me.
That's why I'm asking.
Never.
That's why I'm asking you the question. So what do you plan to do if you don't plan to vote? If you don't plan to be a part of the system, what do you plan to do for black people to move them to the next level? That's what I'm asking you. Well, you give us an option other than voting. What's the option?
Just unification. We got to be together closer.
We are unified. We unified in selling crack, heroin. We unified.
No,
we unified in gang activity.
No, I'm talking about love. Like loving each other a little bit more than we do.
Okay.
Less gossiping.
Okay.
Less hood stuff.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm just trying to get a clear understanding.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
Can I I didn't know someone else was trying to speak. I wanted to refer back to Q Banger real quick. He had mentioned self-governing. And that I don't know, that's like the golden nugget for me, because we can learn a system that works for our own system. And we can learn how to self-govern. And then we can learn how to make it a state. But you have to do some research into we can't just idealize a kumbaya state. We have to do practical root work, groundwork, lay a foundation. What is the foundation going to be? These are questions we must ask ourselves to build a self-governed nation within a nation.
That I agree with.
And that ain't happening no time soon.
It's happening. It's happening.
No, let me tell you. First, let me ask. Everybody talking about voting. Do y'all know that every so many years, Congress have to vote on whether or not we can still vote?
Oh yeah,
that's right.
We still less than a human.
They can take the vote from us like every 5-10 years. The last time I went up for vote, Obama was the president. These little things they don't tell y'all out loud. You may hear it on the back page. Oh, Congress to vote on the Voters Registration Act or whatever it's called, the Voting Act of whatever year it was, and they could change this act. And when Obama was president, it was time for this to be voted on, whether or not to let Black people continue to vote. And what came out of that was they allowed certain states to make up their own voting guidelines. That's why in Trump election, you saw certain states come up with these new ID clauses. You couldn't vote unless you had ID. This is why you saw a lot of polling stations in Black neighborhoods closed down, because the only way Obama could get that passed was to allow these certain things to be added to the clause of the Voting Rights Act that was signed by Martin Luther King. We are not guaranteed permanently the right to vote in this country.
And that's why I feel that self-governing in any case scenario is best, because that develops the individual. The individual has to learn how to speak himself.
That's what Bonnie's
Well,
speaking.
I think
Yes. Hold on, Sterling. Sterling, hold on for a second. Hold on. Yes, Val, that was
Okay, here's a good example.
Yeah, we could never forget when the Constitution, we were for a 3/5 of a
I can't hear.
human.
Listen, I can't hear all of y'all at the
give us
same
what you were
time.
doing.
I can't hear all of y'all at the same time. Tony's trying to talk. Sterling's trying to talk. I think Dee Dee was trying to talk. Just hold on for a second. Sterling, what did you say?
Let me finish this because I have to leave.
Okay.
Self-governing is the quote-unquote word for the day. I love my Black people. I have fought for them in prisons when they couldn't fight for themselves, in neighborhoods. But let's be real, people. We can't even commit to buying Black, let alone self-governing. Perfect example. I have daughters that do craft house nails like a professional, hairstylist like a professional. When everything was locked down in the Vietnamese stores and the beauty shops was closed, my daughters was working around the clock. They opened up the nail salon, and they get the appointments dropped left and right because Choo Chains didn't open back up. And that's where they want to go. But not to say they love all over the internet. That's how they got so much business. Love how my daughters did the nails, love how my daughters did the hair. But the minute they could go back to old habits, instead of getting stuff done in the leisure and comfort of their own home or wherever it was comfortable, they'd rather run back to the Asiatic nail salon. And that's what happened during the integration. We sold the same ice cube as the white man sold, but our people wanted to run and buy the white man ice over our ice, and the water came from the same well. Before we could get to self-governing each other, we got to agree to support each other on a lower level, starting with our Black entrepreneurs, our Black business owners, buy Black. The same Yankee hair that they sell in the Asian beauty supply shop is sold at the Black beauty supply shop, but our people will not go in there. We got 99 complaints about why we don't buy Black, or they rude to you. They this, that, and the other thing to you. I don't like dealing. Their price is too high. No, they not. That's in your mind. It's the same price. The same prices. Plus gas money you save by buying it in your own neighborhood instead of driving 10 miles away to go buy it at the Vietnamese store. Okay?
Yes,
I
We
agree.
have to come together on a
And it's less
lesser
quality.
level. On a lesser level. We have to first respect each other and all our various shades of blackness. We got house nigga, field nigga syndrome so bad. We talk about white people being racist. We racist within our own system. We prejudice against light-skinned blacks and dark-skinned blacks
And African-looking
medium-skinned
blacks.
blacks. So you
Yeah.
think you pretty and have, yes, we have to stop all of that. We have to teach our children because I'm gonna tell you, it's too late for us as a majority to change our habits. If it takes 22 days to stop smoking or stop doing drugs, or 22 days for something to stop being a habit, it's going to take 22 years for us to break this habit we have. All black people ain't good. All white people ain't bad. But we got to start seeing everybody for who they are and where they can fit in and help us. If it's not for our betterment, black, brown, or yellow, no thank you. But we cannot just stay self-governing. We're not going to see it in this lifetime. And white folks ain't going to let us go because, as with Marcus Garvey, the minute we said we going out of this country, we going back to Africa, white folks went to shutting down the ship because they know they cannot run this country without us.
Okay, now
This country
hold
will
it now.
not
Hold on now.
function.
You
I
look,
tried.
Val, you just said a lot. You just said a lot, girlfriend. Now, can somebody else get in there?
I got to go, y'all. I love y'all, but I got to go.
Okay. All right.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. Much love. Much love.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, but my question is still the same. And Hoodoo Occultism, I need you to jump in there, brother. My question is still the same. So what is the alternative? What's the alternative? To sit back and wait for this to implode sounds like an Islamic dream to me. It sounds like a terroristic dream. Y'all waiting for a comet to come out of the sky? You waiting for Korea to blow us off the map? Speak up, bro, because we getting your background.
Like I said, you know, if we really want change, we're gonna have to really be about that. And right now, piggybacking off what your mom said, we ain't ready. We'll get killed the first day. So we're not ready to make no change. So we have to vote because we still slaves mentally. You know, we rather go to the nail shop than actually vote. Now I'm with old girl, but it's gonna have to be some lives that have to be lost, and that's what it is. That's how everybody else did it, you know. And we don't focus in on ourselves. We like to get in everybody else's business. We want to be with everybody else, like your mom just said. We'll go 10 miles away to go to the other gas station.
That wasn't my mom.
We won't focus in on.
That was not my mom. That was my sister wife, Tony Val. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But that's why I asked. That's why I asked Dee Dee, how soon would she be armed, and what do they plan to do? My response mirrored what you're saying now. So if the system ain't for us, if the system ain't never been for us, and if participating in the system, it's not in our best interest, what is the option? Yesterday I talked about Kenya.
I have an answer for that.
Go ahead.
I have an answer for that. This is just my own belief. something in my very DNA has been drawing me back to Africa. And I found this in my best friend. We're watching the same documentaries and never watched them together before. It's something that's drawing us back to our ancestry. Once you get in touch with your roots, it spawns all types of desire for wisdom. You start connecting with your roots, you start connecting with spirit first. Once you do that, spirit will lead you in the direction that you need to go in order to develop your community so that we can create a viable alternative now.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I say that I can't speak in generalized terms. I can't say all people, all Black people, all white people, all votes, or all non-votes, because there's some lane for everyone to move in. There's some lane for us all to take that first changes it for ourselves and then for the community. For example, sustainability. Just beginning to grow your own food, harvest your own food, learn how to heat your house, learn how to bring energy into your house, learn how to do the things that we did not even 50 years ago. Some of our families still doing it. I still got family that don't have no outhouse, that don't have no Wi-Fi, no cellular towers in their town in Mississippi. So we are not that far removed from the skills that would be necessary to be self-sufficient. But as Tony Val said, Antonia, if your mind ain't there, then what point is even knowing this information? And that's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do. You might not see what I do as all that political. You might not see what I do as all that hands-on. But I'm dealing with the Ori, with the mind, with the spirit, with the consciousness. Just like what Pani said, just like divine self-healing is suggesting, in order for me to return to me, I had to return to the mother, the great mother. And not just in garments, not just in jewelry, not just in being able to say Ashe and Alafia, but taking on that lifestyle, returning to a more indigenous way of viewing our relationship, not just to each other and to race and to ethnicity, but to the planet. But to the planet. No amount of freedom will help us if we can't grow food, if we can't harvest an animal, if we can't feed ourselves, if we can't store water, if we can't generate power and or electricity. And some of what I hear, not necessarily in this room, is a bit romanticized. You know, we're waiting on the comet, we're waiting on the Third World War, we're waiting on the Islamists to come and set it off. Then what? Then what? Then who powers what's left? If there's anything left after some post-calamity, atomic bomb or something, then what? Then what do we rebuild from? So just waiting on the change is not an option. Just living out your journey now and only focusing on you now in no way ensures what those behind us are going to have to face. No way ensures what your children or your grandchildren would then have to live in. So from that perspective, it seems all fatalistic to me. From that perspective, we can't do anything. We damned if we do, we damned if we don't. And so is that not how we see young people interacting in the world? Why should my life matter? Why should your life matter? Is that not the demonstration that we see? What was the demonstration in Bogalusa? 500 people out in the environment of Corona. And then somebody or several somebodies decide we're going to shoot up the place. So how can we not expect people to be depressed to be angry, to be full of anxiety, to be pumped up, if not with legal drugs, illegal drugs, to find some kind of way to bring balance to it. And that's why I do what I do. That's exactly why I do what I do. That's exactly why there needs to be a revival, a revolutionary revival, not just of voodoo, hoodoo, but of a more indigenous mindset, a more natural mindset. We got to get in harmony again with nature. We got to get in harmony again with each other. Yeah, I see it happening in small pockets, divine self-healing. I often suggest, I know somebody else wants to talk. Let me get this out real quick. I often suggest people read Octavia Butler's book, Parable of a Sower. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And it's a very similar scenario to what we're living under right now. I don't want to give away the book, but gas is hella expensive. Food is hella expensive. People are having to get creative. People are having to rely on themselves in small enclaves. Like I know if I was in an emergency, I know my neighbor across the street. I know my neighbor to the right of him. I know my neighbors to the right of me. I know my neighbors to the left of me would come to my defense. I know my neighbors behind me on the next block would come to my aid, would make sure I had toilet paper, would make sure I had food if I needed, would make sure I had ammunition if I needed. Are you building that where you are? Are you creating that where you are? Am I off? Come on now, I got 6 mics open. Am I making sense to y'all?
No, you're not off. We can hear you. We just have to give you the floor to be able to speak.
Okay, everybody.
No, you're on point.
Okay, everybody talk. Yeah. Everybody talked at once. Sterling, you go first.
I'm waiting. Yes, you were saying some very on point things there. I wanted to say that I feel like if we start building small, like with our community, and getting, like you said, on a accord where we're able to be generous with one another and have each other's back and come to each other's aid. We start small in pockets like that, and that be like a thing that we integrate into our society, and then we can become communities that share wealth. And once we have enough wealth, I'm sure that we'll be able to, provide our own, ourselves with our own produce, farmlands, all types of stuff. So I feel like it just starts with coming together and having a little bit of humanity between one another.
I agree. You just reminded me of Paris is Burning, and what's the new show that's on TV right now? Pose. And you think about the houses. That was me. That was my generation. I was on the street in the early 80s when those houses were active, when those balls were active. In fact, Wapani, when she first had Christopher, came and visited me when I was living in New York City on 110th and 5th Avenue. And let me tell you, I was paying $100 a month in rent at that time. Not because that's what the lease called for, but the person who reached out to me knew that that's all I could afford. And so when I think about those houses and how we had the mother, the father, the children, the brothers and sisters, and we made sure everybody got fed. We made sure everybody had a roof over their head. I don't see that anymore. I don't see that anymore. I watch a lot of cop shows. I watch 48 Hours. I like all the prison, reality shows. And so that's the closest I've ever been to a street gang. But often you hear that's why people join the street gang. It's for family. It's for a sense of community. It's for a sense of the gang gonna feed me because I might not be getting that back home. And until we can look at back home, what back home is, there's no reason I should have been on the street at 13, 14, 15. There's no reason I should have been forced out there any more than many of you should have been. Any more than many of you should have grown up under the abuses and illnesses and sicknesses and diseases and post-traumatic slave disorder that was passed down to us from our grandparents and our great-grandparents and the generations that came before. So when I think about what Antonia said about coming together but lacking a mindset, when I think about what Wapani said about self-sustainability, being able to support ourselves and then each other, when I hear Sterling talk about, hey, what about the gay community? What about those of us who are in the Black community, often on the front line, by the way, doing the work? It was a gay Black man who organized Dr. King's March on Washington. It's often the gay Black men who are sitting with the bow tie on the pew next to you, but you don't know nothing about they. We invisible. Yet we're often on the front line of change, of transformation. Listen, it don't cost nothing to click like. It don't cost nothing to subscribe. I can't tell you how many people I subscribe to and rarely even have opportunity to even go to their channel. But I support them because of who they are. I support them because of who they represent. So the idea of we won't even support the Black business, that's very real. That's very real. And when we look at reality TV, entertainment TV, pop cultural TV, and we look at our people labeled down, gold down, silver down, jewelry down, you know, whose names are on those labels? Whose businesses did they support to bring that glam to the forefront? So I understand why people would feel negative. I understand why people would feel full of anxiety, full of fear. I understand why people would give up and not want to not only vote, but not want to participate in any of your little grassroots groups anyway. Now, I don't want to start calling names, but I know people in my circle. They're not coming to your meeting. They're not coming to your protests. They're not about to participate in your Black unity organizing because they're tired of that drama. They're tired of that gossip, that backbiting, you know, that competition, that ego. Hoodoo Occultism, I muted you for a minute because you had background noise. But you open if you had something to say. Everyone is still open who's still with you.
Yeah, I want to say this. First, like I said, they are working on computers to run the world. You can look this stuff up. AI is getting really powerful. Right now, Microsoft is paying people for a computer to collect information from their mind all day. They're paying people for this. They're trying to feed a computer. It goes bigger than Trump. AI is now able to predict almost anything that you do. In social media, they're collecting your data, feeding it to a computer, feeding it to a database. It's starting to get bigger than race. And, you know, and that's what the thing where it's not, you know, I'm always down for my people, you know, but right now they're feeding a artificial intelligence system. They are, and we have to get on toes. But the thing is, the computer is based off what? Binary code. Binary code is it's E5. So we've been working with the things that they call our science. Like you said, we first of all, if we want change, if we want to both make change the system. We got to get on the spiritual, spirituality, and we have to get on the offensive side just as well as them, and because they're doing it on us, see, they're doing it. They're working with our magic.
Now
People
listen.
don't believe it. They are.
Yeah, now I agree. I've taught that from this platform. So there's a level of what you're saying right now that I absolutely agree with, and somebody else did too. I'm not sure who. Dee, Keona, somebody kept interjecting while you were talking. I think somebody else agreed with what you said too. But here's my thing. At the same time, we cannot fear technology. We cannot fear knowledge. We cannot fear expansion of intelligence. And so now we introduce alien technology into the conversation. Whether we're talking about ancient alien technology or even that which is to come. Now, one of the girlfriend, you just completely threw me off.
I'm sorry, but yeah, they trying to make us scared.
Well, that's my thing. Make us scared of technology, make us block technology, make us fear technology. And what if the reality, I know what I was going to say. What if the reality is that our ancestors, who may very well have been ancient aliens, seeded this planet, seeded that growth in evolution from animal nature to humanity, seeded that growth in technology that took place in the last 100 years. I mean, we see a growth spurt in technology just in the last 100 years that outpaced anything that ever existed in our known history. So I'm also cautious about the fear of technology, the fear of nanotechnology, the fear of the computer and the whole IG conspiracy theory thing, as a part of keeping us stuck in our animal nature, keeping us limited in our animal nature, because Earth law limits us in terms of our ability to grow and expand. That's science, not spiritual. Gravity is science, not spiritual. So there are Earth laws that we have to adhere to in order for this marble to be as it is. But we can't also, like Dee just suggested, allow them to create this sense of fear in us, that we also shut ourselves off to the development of technology and ultimately the move of culture and society. You owe me the Jetsons. I was born in 1966. You owe me the Jetsons. I'm looking for the flying mobile and the flying or floating living quarters. Where is that technology? The whole IG thing, I think, is just propaganda, y'all. It's just propaganda. IG has already been around for years. First of all, the Chinese have greater than IG.
That's military.
So
they're dealing with the military.
What's dealing with the military?
The technology that they're dealing with, and they just suggest it and then pull it out to the people.
You don't think the technology that existed prior to was not locked into the military?
No, I know that it's beyond that, but they're giving us just like a little bit.
No, I'm saying like cable. I'm going back to cable TV.
Yeah.
You don't think the government and the military was involved in that? I remember the conspiracy theory back then is that they could watch us through the cable box.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yep.
Okay, I ain't trying to tell your age now. I ain't trying to give your age away, but come on now. So that fear of technology is not new.
You're right.
Yeah, that's not new.
Because I can go in and I cut the TV on, it's just off for no reason. Like I had it on, it's just off, and then I hear a whole helicopter over my head. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I agree with you in that they are trying to create fear, but I think there's a certain line we got to draw in terms of fear. You know, are we so fearful that we're not keeping up, that we're not educating ourselves, that we are not a part of the system? Let's remove government and just look at internet. Black folks, according to the statistics, we was the last ones to get on board. We were the last ones to have a computer in our house. We were the last ones to have cable TV in our house. We were the last ones to get.
Hey, look,
Yeah,
you ain't gonna watch this for about 2 hours.
Right. So I think that fear of technology has always been present. That fear to keep us in our place has always been present.
Yeah.
But I think that when we look at the new technology and then expand our awareness into some subject matters that we have not always, talked about, like aliens. I had to school somebody today, I can't remember who it was, that Farrakhan been talking about aliens since the 80s. Farrakhan been talking about the mothership since the 80s. That predates Scientology. That's long before he started introducing Scientology to the FOI.
Yeah, that's because our dad was a Muslim, and he was talking about and the little his son was going here in Los Angeles, going to Scientology. I'm like, I know what y'all doing on the low.
And
I know what you're doing.
And Scientology is sort of the white Hollywood face of this, higher echelon of information. I don't know how many people know about Scientology.
I'm trying to help him build up his own business, Prince. I'm trying to help him build up his own business, and he researching me the whole time.
Who?
Oh, when I was in Los Angeles, I ain't gonna.
Oh, you talking about the Scientology people?
Yeah, he was into that side, and he made his son get into that because he's a Muslim.
Oh, so we're talking about someone because we're not following you.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about someone you know? Okay, yeah. I was in Hollywood, California, beloved, in 1986, and I remember back then, Scientologists would be on every corner in Hollywood, and they were waiting for. It didn't matter who you were, tourist, local, gay, straight, black or white. And they would stop you on the street and try and convince you to sort of take this quick personality test. And within that test, they would, reveal and discover things that were really obvious. Yeah. But they would use that as sort of a tool to pull people into Scientology. And it was years later, I'm going to say going into the 90s.
I need a prop. I'm like, a prophet, like you prophet. So I'm not stupid. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. So it was later into the 90s that I actually started studying Scientology, who they are, who L. Ron Hubbard was, and where their message came from. A lot of you might not even be aware that the common member of Scientology is not even exposed to this information. You have to sort of graduate and be initiated and sort of develop in Scientology before they even start talking about aliens, alien technology, and some of this higher learning. But that higher information can also be found in other traditions. Dr. York and the Ansuru, early on introduced some of that information into the Black community. And it could have been at the same time that Farrakhan himself started introducing some of that language, into our community. So as I said earlier in the show, this stuff is never new. It's repackaged and then repackaged again, for the next generation or for the next group of people. Yes, whipping. It's too late to call in, beloved. You have to call in between 12 and 2 or the system will shut you out and not allow you to call in to the phone line. You can get on screen with me if you follow the link that I have at the bottom of the screen now, and you can come in that way. But it's too late to get on the phone lines. I apologize. That's just the way it's set up. It won't let us take phone calls.
Can I share one more story?
Yeah, you go first, and then I think Hoodoo Occultism is trying to speak too.
He had did 9 years for robbing a bank.
Who did?
I can't say their name.
Okay, listen, Dee.
He did that.
Dee.
Like, I'm not your Antonia.
Dee, you are live on air. Okay, you're not just talking to me. You're talking to a million people right now.
I know.
So I need
That's
you.
why I don't share no names.
Okay, I'm not asking you to share names, but you need to be clear about what you're talking about. We lost when you start referencing people that's not in the conversation.
They was in the Muslim page, and I was going. I was a whole in. But when you with people that's not all in with you, you know they not, and you start figuring out stuff. They share stuff like, oh, you got all this stuff going on too. You went to prison over here. I'm down with you. I try to find out the law. I went to school for law. Like, y'all don't care. And then my mom is a Virgo like you. She's like, just stop. Stop. You care too much. You care too much, it's gonna kill you. And okay, now everybody else can talk.
Okay, beloved. Listen, I don't have a clue what you just said, but all is a blessing. Okay. Hoodoo Occultism, did you have something?
She's saying that they don't care about people as far as like the Scientology stuff. Like they really have hidden motives. That's what she's saying.
You talk about the Scientology people don't care.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, right?
But wouldn't that be the case with almost every religion? I mean, look at any wealthy religion.
But,
go ahead.
Let me say this, and keep I'm not being shady, but what Sterling was saying is, what about the gay people? I'm gonna be honest with you. These people don't care if you're gay. And it's not completely our fault that we gay people have been discriminated against. Even though I'm not gay, I'm not, homosexual. But they put that in the Bible. They wrote that. Because the dogma that came with accepting gay people comes from the Bible. But they don't care if you're gay. If you try to make a change, they don't care. They will kill you. They will try to kill you. They will try to put you out here. Get you out of here. Shame you from millions of people. If you gay and trying to help, they don't care. If you gay and you going along with the system, they want to promote you. It don't matter what your sexuality is. If you're trying to be beneficial for the people, you're not getting any credit in your system. So just like straight people, whatever, it don't matter what you are. When you try to help, you will have problems. When you tell the truth, you will have problems. It don't matter. So, and another thing, we're not scared of technology, and that's the reason that I had said it's E5. The divination system of E5 is basically what they're using for a computer, right? So, we've been doing this. It's now, it's time to make it tangible. It's time to make it turn into things. Now it's time, and these people still are getting reached. Don't get it twisted. They're still getting Ifa readings. They still going to priests and figuring it out things. Please don't think they don't.
Okay.
I know priests that in contact with very powerful people.
Whipping.
And they get reasons too.
Whipping. Thank you, Keona. You're gonna be removed from the group. Thank you, Keona. Go ahead, Hoodoo Occultism.
Yeah, they basically getting this technology from the mythology in Egyptian mythology. That's where the technology is coming from.
Well, listen, I agree with you. Listen, I agree with you on that. Not just the technology, but as your Adam suggesting, some of the politics sort of associated with it. Like, for instance, we should have already been ready for binary. I absolutely agree with that. And in the context of authentic history, African folks were already ready for it. The rules and protocols and mores that we are operating from today came with Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And that's where the confusion started. That's where the confusion started. So we believe now that there are principles, values, cultural nuances that are absolutely African, and that's not true. The idea that there's no homosexuals in Africa, that's not true. The ideas that Africans were somehow by nature homophobic, that's not true. You're talking about a whole degree of information that has sort of been inserted over top of all cultures, all history, all tradition, right around the 1300s, the 1400s, gained control of the world mindset, if you will. And we are now still struggling to get out from under that, westernized thinking. And so it does have many parts. It is about what we're eating. It is about how we're being educated. It is about the God spell that has been projected at us. I agree, Keisha. We have to evolve our thinking, involve our power, and not feed off the fear, not feed off the anxiety, because that's what's creating sort of this blockage to technology, this blockage to us advancing, and creating sort of that condition that I described earlier, where people don't know what to do, have given up on really doing anything, and it's showing up as alcoholism, abuse, drug abuse, depression, suicide. It's showing up as all these other conditions in our culture, when it's really about people giving up, when it's really about people not being clear about their power and what's available to them, and then how we utilize that power moving forward. Listen, I'm going to have to end the show because I do have an appointment shortly. So I'm going to have to move forward. It's been a really great show. I appreciate everyone's participation and offerings to the show. I want to make sure I get everybody on screen before I end the show. Thank you so much, Keona, for assisting me in maintaining some kind of order in the chat. Thank you, Rain of Love. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you, Dee Dee. Love you, girlfriend. Black Cotton, greetings, beloved.
Oh, it's my bad.
Say that again.
Love you so much. Love you so much.
Thank you, beloved. Thank you. Black Cotton, yes, I talk about that a lot. People sort of having this Orisha romance and locked in on one particular deity, you know, but there's so much.
Can I say one thing before you go?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, romance was Renaissance, and that's when the Greek Europeans understand what romance was, what Black people had to do for them. And they made their own essence, and they called it Renaissance. It sounds like, and you're not into it. Because we already created whatever you're trying to do. You're just a copycat.
Mm-hmm.
We know about gay culture. We know about all this stuff y'all don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we can't touch each other no more.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, if you got a wife or whoever you're dealing with, if you're a lesbian, like my niece is a lesbian. Like I already know about that culture.
Well, beloved, listen, I appreciate you, but I've got to go. I have got to go. I have an appointment in less than 13 minutes. I ain't ate nothing all day. I have got to go. But I appreciate everyone for being present, everyone's contribution to the show. I invite you all to join me here again tomorrow at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time. I'm going to have my Gregory suit on, and we're ready to do battle, y'all. No more being quiet. No more being sedimentary. No more not being actively a part of participating in the change. All is a blessing. Thank you, Hoodoo Occultism. Thank you, Dee Dee. Thank you, Keona D. Carter.
A dash of cayenne to the roof. Gonna put on my grease suit. Boil a gumbo, hot and steady. Don't care if it's ready. Gonna breathe at that old cemetery. Down on Cleveland where she's buried. Build a fire on the bayou. When the black cat scratch at you. Under a full moon that's blue. Chant some magic words will follow. A dash of cayenne to the groove. Gonna put on my grease suit.